currently the project manager here at the Birth Justice Institute. And so the Birth Justice Institute is an intersectional and intergenerational hub for community-based doulas, advocates, and then just community seeking folks that are trying to champion equity and justice in maternal health care. We have a multifaceted approach, which includes education, training, and mentorship. And we really want to, sorry, let me make sure I turn this off. We really want to empower folks to be able to enact tangible change in their environments, in their community. But this program has started in New Jersey, and we're really, really excited to have our guest speaker, Dr. Chef B. And so, just to introduce her to the community, Dr. Natasha Bruley, also known as Chef B, is an author. She's a plant-based chef, an educator, and owner of Inyasapo Wellness Institute, NWI. And so NWI is a health and wellness company dedicated to nurturing Black professionals from the inside out through plant-based food services and wellness experiences. Their mission is to support professionals in transitioning to a healthy plant-based diet as they strive to achieve optimal well-being. They offer a range of services tailored to meet individuals where they're at in terms of various stages of their wellness journeys, including weekly plant-based meal prep, holistic health coaching, culinary education, gut health support, and reset cleanses. With a focus on community impact, they are committed to increasing access to healthy plant-based food and providing education in food deserts around the Metro Atlanta area, which we're so thankful to have her here on the call. Chef B?
Hello, 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 Asha and everyone else. Can you make sure that my screen can be shared so that I can launch our presentation for today? It's ready? Okay. Let me hit share. All right, request has been sent. Uh-oh. Start sharing. Okay, yeah. All right. Can you all see this presentation? Yes. All right, there we go. All right, so thank you so much, Asha, for that beautiful introduction. Um, I like to start off by just kind of situating myself and sharing who I am. I'm a founder of Inyansipo Wellness Institute, and really, the reason why I founded this company was because my own health was in crisis, and in seeing that I had to make lifestyle changes for myself, I was like, I know other people probably need this sort of support, and had an experience which really just set the tone for the next level of the work that I wanted to do. And so here we are. And the more I talk to people, the more I realize that I made a great decision to do this work because there's so many of us that need support around eating better and shifting our mindset and just having a new and more expansive relationship with our foods. Um, as you mentioned earlier, I do have an essential meals to go meal prep business. That's our bread and butter. We really work to help people eat better, eat cleaner foods, and that comes in the form of cleanses, experiences, challenges, all sorts of things because everyone's at different places in the journey. I'm a wife and a mother of two boys, holistic health coach, raw plant-based chef educator, and I would say that now I'm in my ministry. I've always been an educator. I've been an educator for more than 3 decades in the mathematics space. That's my training. I'm a mathematician, but retired maybe about 2.5 years ago from the college classroom to really like to live out this work, because it's to me it's like if you don't have your health, then what do you have? So really working to help people become more empowered, and take more agency in regards to their health and wellness. So that's me. I'd like to share, like, okay, this is how I want to frame for today, our conversation. I want to talk about my birth story and just sort of my two births and what that looked like, was reproductive health, and then share plant-based foods that are good for reproductive health and herbs as well. And then just open it up for any questions. All right. So what I did was I went back and I looked for two photographs, one from my first pregnancy and one from my second pregnancy. This is my first pregnancy. I was 35, 34, 35. I was in graduate school at the University of Georgia. Um, Not eating well, just kind of out of balance, like just doing all the things that I know I shouldn't be doing. I was highly stressed because of the work I was doing, and developed preeclampsia, before delivering my first child. I had a cesarean, because that was sort of forced upon me. They said they couldn't get the blood pressure down, the child would be in danger, all the things they tell you to kind of scare you and push, a cesarean. But at that time, I had gained maybe probably like 70 pounds. So I was 220 pounds. I had high blood pressure. As I mentioned, a lot of stress, not just in my work life, because I was teaching, but also my personal life. And I didn't feel like I had an advocate for me. I was just new to all of this. So I was just doing what I needed to do to, just sort of maintain. And there's just a lot happening at that time. So that pregnancy, cesarean, and then now we're dealing with hypertension, which is something that is in our family. Um, and then just really trying to work to manage all of those things. Okay. So then we moved to my second pregnancy. I look like a little hot mama here. So I'm older. I'm 42 now, and actually recall going to various doctors because at that time, they ask you, of course, for your previous, if you were pregnant before, your previous experience while pregnant. Told them that I had a cesarean, told them that I had high blood pressure, and they're like, oh, yeah, you're going to have a cesarean. You're going to have a cesarean. And there's some doctors that just won't see you because they're like, we don't want the risk. So we literally, my husband and I, we saw maybe like four doctors, four or five doctors, before choosing one. That doctor that we chose, which was beautiful, no longer is practicing in the state of Georgia, but it was an absolutely incredible experience. But really, just in terms of reproductive health, maternal health. I remember going to Washington, D.C. to visit my best friend who's a doctor, Dr. Alma. We talked about her. And she said, she's like, look, you can choose how you want this to be. At the end of the day, if there's going to be a cesarean, then there's going to be a cesarean. But don't let that be the only choice that you have. Don't walk in saying, okay, I'm going to have a cesarean. Don't let that be forced upon you. What can you control? What can you change in this whole thing? And that was really the first time I felt like I had someone who was pushing me to think about things differently and that I was the agent of my change. It wasn't just this is what it's going to be. It's like I can do different things, in terms of my lifestyle, my lifestyle. Like that's the big piece when you're pregnant, right? It's about lifestyle. And I think maybe the old narrative was, oh, do what you want, eat what you want, right? But really, we can't think like that, right? We have to really look holistically, not just when we are when we're not with child, but when we're with child and postpartum. All the time we should be looking at lifestyle, and how we can adjust those things so that we can have a more robust, beautiful pregnancy. And so, with that, I'm 42, no major health issues, went fully plant based. So, this is me now talking the talk and walking the walk. This is the work that I'm in, and I'm now the experiment. I really believe that we should all be our own experiment, our own science experiment. And so I said, okay, I'm talking about this plant based lifestyle. Let me fully embrace it. Let me fully live it. Let's see what happens. Let's see what outcome we get when we fully embrace this thing, right? And so, as you see here, I say lifestyle medicine fully utilized, fully utilized. And for those of you who aren't familiar with lifestyle medicine is really doing the audit of your whole life, your food, your relationships, your stress levels, your finances, your um, everything, all the pillars, right? And seeing where you need to interrogate, where do you need to work, put some attention so that you can get a different outcome than maybe where it is. If you think of everything being a circle, a perfect circle, and these are like dots on a circle, right? And the circle is perfectly just full and out. When we think about different parts of our lives, sometimes those dots aren't on the circle, they're inside the circle because they need some work. We need to do some work to push the dots out. And so when I thought about food in comparison to the last pregnancy and where I wanted it to be, I needed to work on that. When I thought about like stress and all the things that I was doing, my husband was like, nope, nope, you ain't gonna do that. Nope, nope, you ain't gonna do that. He was taking things off my plate because I didn't know how to take things off my plate. When I was looking at spiritual practice, those things weren't necessarily where I wanted them to be in the first pregnancy. In the second pregnancy, getting spiritual baths, getting work done, spiritual work done to ensure a good outcome. Community, making sure that I had a powerful community of other moms to be that I can come and connect into weekly with yoga practice, working on my womb, working on all of those things, mindful eating, hydration, right? And now this time I have more people who were agents for me. My husband, my best friend who's a doctor, my doula, my midwife. I had all those people on deck checking for me and making sure that I was doing what I needed to do. So I really felt more powerful during my second pregnancy. And I had a goal. We had a goal in mind. And the goal was, all right, we ain't get no cesarean. We're gonna do a vaginal birth, hopefully home birth. That was the goal. That didn't work out. That's okay, but a healthy vaginal birth, no blood pressure issues, none of that. And I could share that with all of those pieces that I just laid out around lifestyle medicine, this is how we were able to do it. This is how we were able to do it. All right, so that's me. All right, so what's reproductive health? Some of you know. I'm kind of getting more into this now. I think I had a very narrow view about reproductive health and, thinking about sanitary napkins and thinking about birth justice, just like all of it is reproductive health. And even in me being able to choose the kind of pregnancy I wanted to have, that's reproductive health, right, y'all? That's reproductive health. So it's I think when you think of the name reproductive health, you're thinking about one little piece, but it's so big and vast, right? It's your overall well-being and the health of the reproductive system. That's one piece. But then it's your ability to get all of these services that are absolutely entitled to you to have the best pregnancy, the best outcome with your pregnancy as possible. The agents, the people who are going to be looking out for you have so that you can make informed decisions. And then also, it is around your physical, mental, and social well being, right? And so we know that that's a huge part of having a healthy pregnancy. Your mental faculties, your physical faculties, and then the people who are there for you so that you don't feel alone as a mama to be, right? So all of those things encompass reproductive health. All right. Now, when I think about the foods that I was eating, and the things that I was doing, y'all, I really was mindful about blood pressure. I was mindful about making sure that I had proper nutrients in my system so that that baby was growing strong and healthy and setting really powerful intentions, you know, every night. And when I was eating, when I was at, before I went to bed, when I woke up in the morning, all of those things, those are foods too. Those are foods too, right? Your intentions are foods. But right now we're going to talk about that, like the literal plant-based foods that I was eating. So as you can see here, I just have a list of, I did 8 because there's so many more. But I do think that if you encompass these 8, you're going to basically get a full plate of what you need. All right. So of course the leafy greens, the spinaches, the kales, the Swiss chards, we need that folate. So when that baby, when you know that you're about to have a baby, you need to have that folate in there, right? That's going to help with that fetal development. All right. And so we want foods along with supplements that are going to give us folate so that we're having all the healthy development of the baby that's needed. We also need to, have antioxidants. So the berries, and the other good things about berries is that they're not too sweet. So when you are pregnant, as you know, so that there's no gestational diabetes, we're trying to minimize those sorts of issues. We want to make sure that we're choosing fruits that are not too sweet for us, but that have really good nutrients. And so all the berries are going to be a good source, rich in antioxidants, and then they're just good at reducing inflammation. All right. You don't want to eat too many things that are too sweet, like the mangoes and those sorts of things are cool every now and then, but they can spike the blood sugar. So we want to stay away from some of those foods. Legumes, all of the protein, right? So, I think people often have a misconception around plant-based protein, and you get protein from everything, and plants have quite a bit of protein. And so I do recall leaning into a lot of legumes, the lentils, the chickpeas, black beans, all of those things to get my plant-based protein, to get the folate, all of those things is going to keep me fortified. All right. So you can also, of course, lean into the different kinds of hempes and pumpkin seeds and those sorts of things as well. But these are really, really good sources to make burgers and all of these things that are nice. All right, so we talked about the nuts and the seeds, almonds, walnuts, chia seeds, flax seeds. This is also going to be good for the brain health too, right? The omegas. And it's also helping with your hormonal balancing, you know. I'm not sure if you talk about this at all, Asha, is holding on to that placenta, right? And doing a supplement with the placenta so that you can bring the nutrients back into the body. Some people do that, right? So if you guys don't know about that, that's something that you might want to check out. So you're giving so many nutrients to the baby. And so instead of having these folks take your placenta, what you might want to do, they call it placenta encapsulation. You take the placenta, you work with someone who knows how to do it. You can dehydrate the placenta, and what you can do is make supplements out of the placenta itself, and then ingest that back and get a lot of those nutrients back into the body. All right. So I thought about that with hormonal balancing postpartum, right? I think that would be something that someone would want to check into. Of course, healthy fats, avocados, going to give you vitamin E. That's going to also support your hormonal health, fertility. Avocados are just the bomb. It's going to give you a lot of potassium. Amazing, right? Quinoa, another grain that's going to be good for protein, fiber, and iron, magnesium, just all of these good things that we need to have. All right. And then last but not least on the plant-based food list is the tofus and the tempehs. I'll tell you what, it's controversial. I know that people eat soy products, but I just want us mamas to be mindful of soy and where their soy is coming from. So in America, so soy isn't bad, but in America we just have to be mindful about our soy. We don't want to just be eating any and any soy. We want to make sure we're choosing maybe sprouted, organic tofu because the quality of it is going to be better than if you just ate some, tofu from some random place. So make sure that it's sprouted organic tofu because I know that there's some people who deal with hormonal imbalance and their doctors might say, based on their situation, they might need to have some tofu. All right. So be mindful of that. Also, cruciferous vegetables. So this is going to be really good for hormonal balancing. And then also, just to give you really good nutrients, cruciferous vegetables are also really good for cancer, people who have cancer. And you do have some mamas who deal with cancer as well, believe it or not. So broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, all of those things are going to be good for hormonal balancing, reproductive health, and just also just fortifying the system overall. Now, the other thing that I did when I was pregnant was I used powerful herbs, and I started using these herbs maybe after 17 weeks. And I used those herbs the duration of my pregnancy, of the rest of the pregnancy, and postpartum. And it's called the Nora tea. All right. And Nora is actually an acronym that stands for nettles, oat straw, red raspberry, and alfalfa. So we'll go through what those are in a second. But if you don't know about Nora tea is absolutely incredible. All right. It's really, I think, one of the most perfect foods for pregnant moms to ensure that they're getting all the supplementation, all the things that they need, all the nutrients that they need, while also conditioning the womb and preparing it for pregnancy. All right. So Nora tea, that's one of the things that my midwife told me about. And instead of buying it like inside of like a packet, you can actually source those herbs yourself, make the mixture, and then make the Nora tea. And then we'll talk about that in a second. All right. But it really helps with boosting your immune system. It helps with relaxing you. It helps with you getting all of your vitamins and nutrition. And then, of course, conditioning the uterus. All right. So let's talk about what's in them. So the nettles, the oat straw, the red raspberry leaf, and then alfalfa. So real quick, let's go through what each of them have and why they're important. So nettles basically has a lot of the minerals, vitamins and minerals that you need. So your vitamin A, your vitamin C, vitamin K, your potassium, iron, and magnesium. All right. And it has silica too. It's high in iron, silica, and potassium. So that's one of the things that mamas have to think about is that iron source, right? And nettles, it just has all of these wonderful minerals and vitamins, but it really has a lot of iron in them, and it's just something good to fortify your system with on a regular basis. All right, oat straw is good for your nervous system. So this is going to help to keep you relaxed. It's going to help to keep you balanced. Also, for those of us who might deal with hemorrhoids or varicose veins, straining, all of that, this is going to help to relax us. So oat straw is in there as well. Red raspberry, I think out of all four, most people are familiar with red raspberry leaf, right? So it helps with reducing menstrual cramps. It helps to tone the uterus. It helps to support your digestive system, your uterine health, your respiratory health, believe it or not. It also helps to shorten the length of your labor. All right. And then it also helps to fight against any sort of artificial rupture that might happen during the pregnancy process or delivery process. And then finally, you have alfalfa. So more calcium, more iron, magnesium, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine, sodium, all of these things it has in it. and it also acts as a natural chlorophyll for the body. So alfalfa, from what I understand, has the highest amount of chlorophyll content compared to any other plant. So we want to get chlorophyll. It's going to help with our skin. It's going to just help with, again, antioxidants in the body, just help to fortify you. So really, this Nora tea, y'all, I drank that every day. Once I got past that 17-week mark and it was okay to drink it, I would basically make that mixture. I would source it from a place here in Atlanta we call Seven Nanda, which is a like a herb, like a natural food store, but you can buy bulk herbs. I either got it from there or a place called Health Unlimited. So I would buy, a couple pounds of this loose these herbs, mix them together, and then get like a ball jar or something like this. I don't know if y'all can see that. Can you see this? A ball jar like so. Put about 1 inch of the dried herbs on the bottom of the bottle, and then pour hot water to the top and steep it overnight. And then I would have another jar like this and then strain it. So I would have 32 ounces of my Nora tea every day. And I did that every single day until we went into labor. Okay. So when I went to the doctor, my numbers always looked really, really good. I was not eating a lot of sodium. I was not eating a lot of salt, sugar, um, drinking a lot of water, staying hydrated. So like these are the things that we want to be thinking about, really thinking about the food as medicine piece and making sure that, I had everything that I needed to just have a solid pregnancy. And just to let y'all know in terms of the outcome, so the second pregnancy, we did have him vaginally. We were unable to have the baby at home and do a water birth because I actually, my water broke on like a Saturday morning and he didn't come until a Wednesday. So I was just laboring in the house and then finally, it turned into back labor. So it's just like, let's just go to the hospital. But no problems, really, no major problems. Just was able to deliver the baby vaginally, and literally, I was so disappointed in myself because I was like, I wanted a water birth so bad. But my husband reminded me, he's like, "But what's our goal? Our goal was not to get you cut. Our goal was not to have a cesarean, and that's what we about to do. We're gonna make that happen, right?" So really, for me, I just want you all to know that you can do it. You can do it. Now, everybody's situation is different, and I respect that and I understand that. But I want you to be mindful that you can control what you can control. Food is information that tells your cells what to become and what to do. So choose your food wisely. And all the things that we talked about today are different kinds of food. So the herbs, the plant based foods, spiritual baths, prayer, community, my mindset, all of those things are foods. It's not just the food that you eat in, but it's literally how like what are you bringing into your environment, right? What are you keeping out of your environment? All of those things can impact how your birth will look. And then I will say something about the herbs. Those herbs are very, very powerful. You can, as a woman, even though they're recommended during pregnancy, what I noticed too is as you're getting older, I'm 51 now, so dealing sometimes with iron issues, with anemia, those herbs are something that we could use literally throughout our entire life, right? So choose your foods wisely. We want to make sure that we're choosing foods that are going to nourish us. And for whatever issues you're dealing with, and all of us deal with something, some special thing that we were brought on this planet to address and deal with. Make sure that you're choosing foods that are going to help to address those things. Find out what those things are. Be honest with yourself. It's about self honesty. what is it that I'm dealing with? What is it that I need to work on? And then you want to make sure that you're choosing foods that are going to support you working on those things so that you can move beyond it if possible. Or it's just going to help make sure that you don't, overdo things. So, for example, if I know that I'm dealing with blood sugar issues, I might really need to leave sugar alone. But things that would support my blood sugar would be things like cinnamon, right? Low glycemic foods. Um, Things like I'm trying to think, certain kinds of sugars that won't spike you. Another thing that you might want to do is get a CGM, which is a continuous glucose monitor, so that you can actually see what foods spike your blood sugar, right? So it's all about knowing, and then once you know, you can then address it, right? And so not you don't want to be afraid, you want to just be proactive. And so one of the things I want to say is that I was really happy. I was impatient in some respects. My husband was just like, "Nah, we got to find the right person," because I literally was at like 5 months pregnant and hadn't gone to the doctor because none of these doctors they weren't advocating for us. So it took time, but we found the right person that was gonna basically support us and support what we were trying to do. And so sometimes it's like that too. You want to make sure that you are doing your due diligence to find a doctor that is going to support you and the mission that you have for your pregnancy. So I'll close there. Food is information that tells your cells what to become and what to do. So choose your food wisely. I think it's a really important statement and it can really set the tone for so many things. I'm going to end here with questions. And then before we leave, I want to share with you some things that will be coming up and how you guys can connect. So we can now open it up for questions.
Hey, thank you so much. Cynthia asked, did you add anything else to your Nora tea, like honey, coconut sugar, date syrup, etc.?
No, I literally just drank the herbs as is, steeped it with hot water. The water was alkaline or some kind of spring water, and that was it. Again, I wasn't trying to add anything extra to the mixture because that was the protocol that I was given was just those four herbs steeped a specific way overnight to really pull out all the nutrients. And then we did it the next day. So no, no added sugar.
Mm. And the second question she had was, how did you find a provider? Did you find a doctor through word of mouth?
So actually, I found the person through my midwife.
Okay.
So this person was practicing at Emory, Brad Boots Taylor. He had it was a oh he's an OBGYN and he had a business called C Baby. So he worked with three midwives. And then he also he was just doing some very innovative things. So although he had his three midwives, he knew that people would be coming in that had their own midwives. So like his midwives were almost like on call. So when you went to his practice, you might see him for a little bit, but then you're also connecting with the midwives. And so my midwife was like, this is someone that may allow me to work with them. Because, like that's the issue with midwives, having someone that will allow them to deliver with them. And, like in the state of Georgia, you can't just have a midwife per se. Some people still do it, but particularly someone who's older like myself, I'm considered, what do they call that?
It's,
It's like a high risk pregnancy. Is it not geriatric? Is it geriatric?
geriatric pregnancy, yes.
Geriatric pregnancy, high risk. So I can't just, oh, I'm having a midwife.
Mm,
Like that might be challenging for me, right? So I could still do that. I could have a midwife, but then to have a doctor that recognizes my midwife was very important. And so this midwife here in Atlanta, everyone pretty much has had their baby delivered by her. She was like, "Yeah, I really think that you need to connect with this person," and that's how I found him. Black male, beautiful person. Because a lot of the other doctors that were allowing people to do VBACs, that was what was special about this particular person. He would allow a VBAC. A lot of doctors in the state of Georgia would not allow you to do a vaginal birth after cesarean. That's what VBAC stands for,
Mm.
vaginal birth after cesarean. They usually try to push another cesarean on you if you had your first one. And I was older. But he's the strong believer that no, the baby will tell you what needs to happen. Let's let the baby lead. That's why it says see baby. Let's let the baby tell us what's going to happen. And so he's one of the few doctors that would allow a VBAC. Many of the other doctors that we went to, they were just like, no, we don't do that, cesarean. And so then, the law started changing and he started getting pressure. So then he retired. He was just like, yeah, I'm done. So I'm sure
So now,
there's gonna be one or two people who still do it, but it's like you got to go look for those folks.
mm, okay, so I have two questions.
Yeah.
Um, what would you tell people that are starting, I guess, their fertility journey? They want to have children, but they want to try to get like in tip-top health before they get pregnant.
Yes. So one, I would definitely go to like an integrative doctor
Mm,
who who knows about just like all the things that you can do to really prepare. I do think that like all of the different prenatal vitamins and things that you need to start taking, you want to do that so that in the case that you become pregnant, it kind of sticks. So
mm,
that's what I never realized is like you can be pregnant, but there's certain like all the chemicals and the chemistry needs to be intact in order
mm,
for it to like move forward to the next phase of the development. And so if you don't have enough of folate and folic acid, all of those things that we don't necessarily just have in abundance in our system, you have to take prenatals for that. You want to make sure that you're doing those things. And I also think that this is one thing that one of my girlfriends did. She went to a Chinese herbalist to find out the quality of her uterus and her eggs. So what she found out was because she was having a hard time finding, like getting pregnant. She had done in vitro and all of that, and it didn't work, right? But then she decided to go to a Chinese herbalist, and they did a test on her, like her uterus, and the doctor said your seeds are good, but your soil isn't. Your
mm,
seeds are good, but your soil isn't. Talking about the uterus. So her eggs were fine, but her uterus wasn't. So she went on a regimen with the Chinese herbalist to strengthen her uterus. And then she got pregnant. She got pregnant after that. So there are different kinds of doctors that you can go to just to check in to see if your soil is good, right? And then once you find out the quality of your soil, your uterus, then you can actually start fortifying those things. It's just like anything else, y'all. Like when you're trying to grow food, we have to make sure that the soil is rich. Sometimes we have to amend the soil, give the soil the nutrients that it needs so that the food will grow in abundance. If the nutrients aren't there, it's going to be very challenging for us to grow food. And it's the same principles for growing a baby. So, and then really being mindful about what you're eating, your thoughts. If you're, doing hookahs and these things, you just need to stop all of that, right? Smoking weed, whatever. Like really look at the quality of your foods, your hydration, what's the quality of the water that you're drinking. All of those things are critical when you're trying to grow a baby.
and I think Akira, she had a couple of questions. You can come off mute, sis.
hi everybody. Sorry I joined late. Hey Asha. Hi Dr. Chef B. I'm sorry I missed the first part of the session, but the second part was still bomb. But no, I am a beginner farmer, and so I guess for me, in terms of like decolonizing my mind around like food and food justice and access to food, I think in the birth justice space as a doula, I find that the nutritional piece is always challenging. It was challenging for myself, but also for folks I work with. And I think it's primarily because of just like access to healthy foods, but also like what is healthy foods is very like Eurocentric. And so my goal in like moving forward is trying to like learn more about our foods, like our cultural indigenous foods.
Yeah,
And if that means like better ways to prepare them so they're healthier, but I
yeah,
just know there's just so many foods across the diaspora that are good for us. And I mean, I'm fortunate because I grew up living in Newark, and I can remember in Newark, like it's very diverse. And like going to the grocery store, you're seeing all these different fruits and vegetables. And it wasn't until like, I meet my Dominican friends, we eat at their house, or my Nigerian, like you get exposed to different foods. But growing up, I'm like, I don't know what those foods are, but I'm learning like all these different ways to make things and how they're healthy for us. So I guess for me and like my doula journey and wanting to help people, I'm trying to figure out ways to like learn more foods and recipes using our foods and how to like present that to our community so people can eat what they're used to eating, but just like in a healthier way. Because no shade, but like people not eating Brussels sprouts, we're not eating like asparagus and other foods. So it's like you weren't eating that before you was pregnant. You're not about to start eating it now because you are. And
mhm.
so I just was wondering like if you have any suggestions for like where to start or just like indigenous foods that you incorporate within your practice. Being are you from Guyana?
I'm from Guyana. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering like do you have any foods that you kind of incorporate in your practice to like share with people or introduce to people?
Yeah, so I mean, like we use a lot of ground foods, and you find that a lot in the Caribbean, and in Africa. Edos, like some of those things like yams, they say really help to make you more fertile, right? Like they say there's a large number of twins in Nigeria, and there's a certain kind of yam that these
Yes,
people
I
eat.
bet. Yes.
You've heard that, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, we don't have those same kind of outcomes in terms of like multiple births in Guyana, but we do use a lot of like plantains and edos and soups and things like that. That's, when you think about like why people are eating those things, it's to support the immune system, right? People don't drink soup here in the States when it's summer, not like that. But in hot Caribbean climates, soup is a staple on Fridays. You have your little soup with your edo, your dumpling, your chicken foot. And no shade, even though I'm focused on plant-based foods here, y'all, there is something to say about broths, those stocks, those things that have like the bone broths, right? Because that's going to help to fortify the immune system too. And so those are some of the things that I would say you can start. I would say this. Think about different, like maybe two, three cultures that you really connect with. You mentioned Dominican Republic. Just talk to the mamas there. Like, what kind of stuff did y'all eat when y'all was pregnant? Or ask if you can talk to the mamas of those friends of yours. They may be a little bit older. What kinds of foods are indigenous foods in DR that people eat when they're pregnant or just in general that is really good for the body? And then I think you can start creating like a little repository and you'll see that some of the foods are the same. They call different names,
Yeah.
but they're
It's so
pretty much the
important.
same.
Hmm.
Okra. Okra is a big
Yeah.
one. Okra, y'all, let me tell you something about okra.
Slide that
Okra
baby out.
water. You know about that okra water? Okay.
Hello.
Okra water, if you're talking about moisture and helping the baby to come out, okra and okra water that slime is necessary to help just create like a conduit for, delivery. It is huge in West Africa. People are now talking about okra water, but things like that.
Yeah, we have an African American culture like pot liquor from the collard greens. And I remember
Mhm.
that was like people would fight over that after the greens was finished. And
Yeah,
so like I guess for me too it's a lot of remembering but also like paying attention to like different things people were doing. But like you
yeah,
said, I can start like putting together like a list and keeping notes. But I think
yes,
that's the biggest thing, like people having to eat foods that are so-called healthy, but they're not foods that are indigenous to us. And
yeah,
so it's how do we switch the narrative to say, well, yeah, we're healthy, but this is what we eat and this is how we're going to prepare it, maybe just for this time of
yeah.
our journey as being pregnant. Um, and yeah, so thank you so much for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I just think it's just conversations. It's now just kind of doing an audit, talking to people and just asking, like, what kind of stuff did your mama make? Or, what kind of foods are y'all eating? And again, if it's different languages, you'll find that they're very similar foods because we're people of African descent. And those foods are just moved around, those different spaces, but they just are renamed for that particular place.
And I'm sorry, you said a word, and I don't want to leave without understanding. Was it Edo? Edo?
Edo, yeah, Edo,
Can you share what
Edo,
that means?
Edo. Edo is another, it's kind of like, you ever heard of cassava?
Yes.
Yes. So they're all sort of in the family of, we call them ground foods, foods that were grown under the earth, right? Like in kind of like in the potato family. But although they're starchy, they just have hella nutrients in them because they're of the earth, right? So you'll find these in soups and stews and things of that nature. Edo is one of them. Cassava is another one of them. Um, those are like the two big ones. There's boniato. Boniato is found in like South America, different parts of the Caribbean. It's like a sweet potato, but it's like a light purple white potato. Um, but when you cut it, it's not orange, it's white on the inside. And so all of these are ground foods. And then, of course, depending on if you're doing farming, the leaves of these ground foods are hella nutritious, right? A lot of us are throwing away a lot of the nutrient dense foods that we're growing because we don't necessarily know how to use them. So
Pumpkin
like all
leaves.
of the foods, all of the foods that you're growing, like the carrot tops, the sweet potato greens, all of those can be in soups and stews, and they have so many nutrients. If it's organic farming that you're doing, which I'm sure it is, you don't get rid of the skin. Nutrients are in the skin too. All of these things are just nutrient dense as best as possible, right, for us. And if you're doing small organic farming, you're gonna get what you need from those produce items that you're growing. Did I
Yeah.
answer all your questions?
Yes,
Akira?
thank you so much. Asha, we need to bring back Dr. Chef. Me for cooking
We
class.
Yes, I think that would be so dope. I also wanted to add that I went to a Chinese doctor and he actually told me that I shouldn't have cold vegetables. That if
Mm,
I'm going to eat vegetables, make sure like that is what my body can digest very well. And it's very native for African Americans. Like cooking your food doesn't have to be till it's soft, but adding
right.
that warmth into the food will help with the digestion. So
Right.
that's something that I have seen in um TMI, but it definitely brings everything out
Yeah.
easily,
Yeah.
easily, and making sure that you're having more than one bowel movement a day. Like,
Yeah.
especially living in Africa, I was like, "Whoa, I keep going to the bathroom,
That's good. That's
going to the
good.
bathroom like this in America." And
Yeah.
out there, I dropped so much weight because the food was naturally just coming out of me as I
Good.
was eating it, and I was able to purge easily.
Beautiful. So in adding to that, there is Ayurveda. Are y'all familiar with Ayurveda? So there are Ayurvedic principles around food, right? And the way you're constituted. So I always talk to people about their condition versus their constitution. Condition, of course, where you're born, what was happening. And then constitution is what you specifically need. So how you need, Asha, warming foods. So like a raw food diet might not work for you per se because the food is cold, it's not cooked, right? You need more food that has been lightly or gently cooked, right? And so everyone needs to learn what works for them. Some people are more raw food people. Some people are more, and they're kapha, pitta, vata, and I can't remember what each of those represent. But those are the three sort of constitutions that people have, in the Ayurvedic tradition. They're kapha, pitta, or vata, something like that. And it's the kind of foods that your body needs. Some people need teas. Some people need just cold food, right? It really depends. And then the time of year that your body needs those things as well. And then you start seeing from a digestive standpoint, when you give your body what it needs, it starts acting right. Like you said, you're starting to go to the bathroom more, right? Because you're giving your body what it needs to really function properly. All right. So that is worth a conversation. And these are why you would go to some of these special doctors because they can help you to determine those things for you. Um, Another thing is, and my chiropractor does this, y'all, is a nutrition sensitivity test. A nutrition sensitivity test. So they take a sample of your saliva and a sample of your hair, and then they send it to a lab. And what that nutrition sensitivity test tells you are the foods that you're sensitive to, not allergic to, but sensitive to, because those are two different presentations in the body. When you're allergic, there's usually some kind of presentation on the skin. But when you are sensitive, you have a insensitivity, you don't always know. You don't always know because it's happening on the inside. It's more stress on the body. And with that, it's like, okay, I really can't have wheat, for example, or I can't have legumes. Legumes are perfectly fine, but there's something in my body that doesn't flow right when I eat it. And I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know why I feel like a little itchy. I don't know why my digestive system is off because you don't realize that you may be eating some foods that you're insensitive to. And so that's something else that you might want to check out is finding out what kinds of foods that you're insensitive to so that you can remove those things or reduce those things in your diet so that you could feel better, you know? So there's all kinds of things that you can do to just be more informed on what's happening in your body.
I think that's so interesting that you bring that up because some of these foods that we're sensitive to, we've been eating for so long and we've been weathering those symptoms of being sensitive to them that you don't even realize like this thing is bothering me until you start to eliminate these items and you're like, "Woo, this is so great. I'm feeling like a different," or I wake up and I'm not drowsy, or after I eat, I don't have to go straight to sleep. And it's like you're starting to eat for fuel rather than pack all this food onto your plate. So I think that that's really important. If you don't real if you sometimes you just wouldn't even know because you've been eating this since you was a kid.
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, a lot of us don't always know to really research and like there's a problem. But then you really got to start being mindful and think, okay, why is it that I get sleepy every time I eat bread?
Mm.
There's something happening there, right? Or why do I, sneeze every time I eat such and such? There's something there. So it's just you slowing down and, being more aware and more present to the foods that you're putting in your body. And then once you have that awareness, you're like, wait a minute, let's see what happens if I take this out. How do I feel? You know, I've been talking to people about hydration a lot. Actually, I can share this with you. I have a hydration challenge coming up September 1st to the 21st because, hydration is probably the single most, one of the most important things that we can do for many of our body functions because we're made up of so much water. And it's something that we overlook and we don't necessarily do it properly. And particularly as a mama, postpartum, and of course during the pregnancy process, hydration is critical. Postpartum, so that you can produce milk to feed your baby, right? You have to be adequately hydrated, or else you're gonna really just you'll feel the depletion, right? So, I would love to invite all of y'all to the Address Your Thirst First Hydration Challenge, September 1st to the 21st. If that's something that you guys feel like that's you need to really work on. We have two levels for that. The first level is someone who's new to hydration. They don't drink water as much as they need to, and they really want to just tackle this. They can do the challenge from the 1st to the 14th. And then we call those people new hydrators. If you are someone who's like, okay, I really want to just kind of take this on for the full 3 weeks, then you'll be more of an advanced hydrator. And during the course of that 3 weeks, people are like, well, what are y'all going to do? We actually educate you on what's happening in the body when you don't hydrate, and then why you hydrate and how you properly hydrate over the course of that time. And the challenge is actually making sure that you hit those numbers that you need to hit for you. All right. Um, any other questions? Because I want to have one more slide to share in terms of what I do. Let's see. I see
Cynthia,
Cynthia. Hmm.
yeah. She said my body started to function so much better when I started getting my hydration from fruit. Is this a thing that you're familiar with?
Absolutely. So that's one of the ways that you can hydrate by eating high, we call them living waters or foods that are high in water. However, we don't want to rely only on that. We want to make sure that we're drinking water. We want to add in foods that are high in water content, but water is really what our body needs. Okay. And it's certain kinds of water, right? So, yes, I think it's always good to eat fruits and vegetables that are high in water content, particularly in the summer, because this is the time that they're abundant, like the watermelons, the cantaloupes, all of those things, cucumbers. There's a reason why those things are available now. It's because one, the season is, I'm all about seasonal eating. The season is ripe for that. The season, it's humid, it's hot, your body needs it. It's in abundance, right? It's alkaline, all of that. But we don't want you to just rely on eating high water content foods. We want you to also get what you need so that you can have those good bowel movements. Your brain is functioning properly, your lungs are functioning properly, your skeletal structure has proper hydration. You need those things from water. And that's what we teach you in the hydration challenge. All right. This is my last, well, next to last slide. Is hey, if you guys need support with like nutrition coaching or any of those things, I used to do just my program, which was like a 6 month program, but now I'm realizing with all that's going on in the world and finances for everybody, we're making this available, one-on-one sessions, a la carte as you go. So we do offer nutrition coaching, holistic health coaching sessions. We can talk about your gut support if you need that, meal planning, just all sorts of things, just wherever you are on your journey. So I just wanted to let you know that we do offer those services. I'm looking here at your comment, Asha. Flushing our system is so important, including fasting and cleansing. Yeah, and then we also offer something called the palate reset, which is our 3 week cleanse experience, so that people who are looking to transition to a plant-based diet, they have a whole program. They have a seamless way that they can do that. So we do offer that as well. Um, Before we close out, because I know we're after 7, these are the different ways that you guys can connect with me. I am on YouTube. I would love for you guys to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Chef B, ChefBeee. Um, or you can go on Instagram. I am Chef B. Check out the website. You know, there's so many different ways to engage with what we're doing and stay connected. If you need support with nutrition coaching, we can help you there. Of course, we would love for you guys to be in the hydration challenge. It's really a small investment for all that you get for the lifetime of knowing how to properly hydrate. And yeah, that's me. That's all that I got tonight, Asha.
Thank thank you so much.